Hello and many thanks for joining us here on My Journey. My Journey, that segment of the news where we take you across the country telling you some of the things that usually do not get told in the news. Now, in the last few years, climate-related events such as flooding and drought have made many people living in rural areas, especially in northern Ghana, food insecure. Now, they have almost nothing to eat as crops are failing and livestock are dying as a result of the lack of access to water. Now, following the government's promise to provide dams for drought-prone areas in the north of Ghana, I traveled to some villages to see for myself if indeed dams are being constructed and where there are any dams, if they are making any impact on the lives of the people. In many rural villages, people's livelihoods have depended on their livestock for centuries. This year, like any other in recent times, the villages are strongly hit by drought and their crops and animals are dying. In these parts, it used to rain heavily for 6 months, but now, and for the last 6 years, the rain has been totally unreliable. Come with me as I find out from the farmers and the cattle rearers how they survive in these very unfriendly times of the year.
As farmers, our major problem is the lack of water around this time of the year. Because there is no water, all our crops are dead.
Last year, for instance, the rains came too late and too little. The crops failed and there is not enough grass on the fields for the livestock to graze. I'm standing beside a stream. Well, it used to be a stream until the dry season came around. When the dry season came around, it sucked away all the water that used to be on the stream here. And the water in the stream here is what the farmers as well as the cattle rearers used to use to feed their animals and also water their plants. In the absence of that, the farmers are struggling. Statistics from Water Aid Ghana indicate that nearly 2 million people in rural areas in the country are forced to use unsafe water. Majority of these people come from impoverished communities and are forced to collect dirty water from open ponds and rivers or spend most of what they earn buying water from tankers. Women are typically saddled with the burden of being water providers for their families. In rural Ghana, women travel a few kilometers daily carrying up to 15 liters of water on each trip. The pressure creates back, feet and posture problems and robs them of the much needed time to earn an income or take care of their children.
It's not easy for us because we have to travel far.
Adolescent girls often miss out on school or college to fetch water for their families. Lack of access to drinking water in school affects the learning environment for both students and teachers. In these areas, more than 3 consecutive droughts have pushed hundreds of people into a vicious cycle of hunger and poverty.
A dry season, I don't have enough food at home, so I come here to search for rice.
As part of efforts to address this problem, the government has promised to provide dams and dugouts in villages across all the regions of the north. Many ask several questions as to whether, indeed, these dams are really being constructed. So, I set out on a journey to some towns and villages in the north of Ghana, including Daboya, Datalong, Pegu, Kumbungu, among others in the northern region, in search of the dams or the construction sites. Land, air, and water. Perhaps these are the three most important resources for life to exist here on Earth. Unfortunately, with the increase in population every year, and with Ghana's population having multiplied by more than 5 times since independence, what it means is that the demand for water has increased. Unfortunately, the water resources in the country have not had a corresponding increment. What that means is that a lot more people are now not having access to water. Government says it is constructing dams across certain communities in the northern part of the country where drought is most severe, in order to overcome the serious negative effects that people have to endure during the dry season in these parts of the country.
This One Village, One Dam project is one that you have to start virtually now, because the rainy seasons is coming to an end. And this is really the time to start the construction of the dams. And so we should be moving very quickly with the development authorities to try as quickly as possible to begin those particular projects.
On my journey, we are going to find out if indeed the constructions of these dams has begun, and if they have begun, which are the communities that these constructions are going on at, and whether or not the community members find these important in their lives.
A dam is a barrier that stops or restricts the flow of water or underground streams. Reservoirs created by dams not only suppress floods, but also provide water for activities such as irrigation, human consumption, industrial use, aquaculture, and navigability. The construction of some of the dams in the villages I journeyed to was either completed or nearing completion.
This is Kupoto, a farming community in the North Gunja district. This community is predominantly a farming community. What it means is that a lot of the farmers depend on water for not just their own survival, but the survival of their crops. Unfortunately, during the Harmattan season, sometimes very severe Harmattan conditions, their plants do not survive, and that's because of the lack of water. Fortunately for them, a dam has just been constructed in the dry season, and hopefully in the rainy season, the hope is that the dam will be able to collect enough water to serve the community and also to serve their farms as well.
If you go to Bowina, we have completed another dam there. You go to Jumfronu, that one is completed. The contractors are moving back to Dar es Salaam and to Donkompe. We are doing one at Kabal.
The first dam that was constructed in the whole of northern region happened to be in my district, and that is in a community called Pyago, in the western part of the district.
In Pegu village, the people and their livestock had already started making use of the little water that had already collected in the dam.
Dam is very important for us, so that's our life.
It's highly useful to the community. You know, for the past years, during the dry season, we were lying in the house, playing Oware, and doing other unnecessary things. But as of this year, as you can see, we have cultivated pepper here. There are bra and other vegetables over there. Our animals, as you can see them, they are drinking. And this time around, we are not suffering for water when we went to build our houses.
Some people have been going to win sand at the dam site. This dam means so much to us that we will arrest the perpetrators.
In the dry season like this, because there's no water, when the animals are thirsty, sometimes before they will drive them from here to that place, some of them even die on the way. They can't even get there to get water to drink. So it makes it very difficult for the people here to get water during this season. That's why we decided to choose this community. So if you look at all the dams that we are constructing, we normally try to make it in such a way that they will be about 5 kilometers apart, so that if here there is water, the next community within 5 kilometers, there should be another water where animals can get water to drink.
Mostly our concern is to get enough water stored to the water holding capacity of the ground on which the water is lying is important to us. That is the issue, the factors that will actually influence: 1, the size of the pit; 2, the access of the embankment.
Meat on the hoof is our banking, and when you buy a cow and nurse it, and it has 2 kids and cows and it dies, it's a lot of loss to the family. Our traditions are built on cattle, even marriage. And so to undermine that customary base, that value base of our system, is not fair. Let people know that the one village, one dam is a savior policy, and we are determined to make it succeed. And I want to take this opportunity to tell those contractors out there who have failed to start on time that I will cancel their contracts if they don't come and build those dams. And I mean it.
Water is life. If this saying is anything to go by, then what it means is that for many people in many rural areas across northern Ghana, they don't have a life. This is because they have very little access to water. And this is why the One Village, One Dam project has become very necessary.
Water is a human right. Through Resolution 649292, the United Nations General Assembly explicitly recognized the human right to water and sanitation and acknowledged that clean drinking water and sanitation are essential to the realization of all human rights and perhaps the rights of animals too. Abdulhaim.
And that was My Journey. We'll bring you another edition of My Journey next week. Have a very good evening.